welcome to this all day on a Wednesday. Rob Olson in for Amy Hockert again today, and we got a lot on tap that we're going to get into very quickly here. Some live events we're monitoring. One of them we're going to go to shortly here, and that is a civil lawsuit announcement in Chicago against Border Patrol related to a woman who was shot there in early October. We're expecting another briefing about ICE activities in the Twin Cities. This happens several times a week. We'll take you to that when that pops up here. Later today, a news conference in Fargo related to a murder investigation there. Now a 21-year-old man in custody for the death of a 24-year-old woman who was last seen on New Year's Eve. Later today, the Super Bowl parade in Seattle for the Seahawks, and of course former Viking Sam Darnold. Yeah, we can keep talking about that. There's a hearing in Washington about the Department of Justice oversight, about oversight of the Department of Justice, and it's all really over the Epstein files here. We're going to have the latest on the investigation into the abduction of Nancy Guthrie in Arizona. And we're going to hit nearly 50 this weekend, so we'll talk weather with Jared Piepenberg here in a little bit. But we begin in Chicago, where a woman shot by a Border Patrol agent in early October is now suing the Trump administration. Miramar Martinez's lawyers are also releasing evidence related to the shooting, which they say bolster claims that the administration used false narratives when they called her a domestic terrorist. This began about 11:30. We're catching the Q&A portion of it, so we're going to listen in.
Fast forward this case. We want to be in trial by October.
Is it frustrating that the federal officers are held to a different standard than if this were just a local?
Yeah, he was a former ASA. I was a former Cook County State's Attorney. I ran a torts and civil rights division. I spent 7 years defending the Cook County Sheriff's Police. I've stand shoulder to shoulder with officers longer than I've been a plaintiff's attorney. I know what use of force is. I know what deadly force is. I know what's appropriate. And so I know how they can be held accountable because I've sued them, I've defended them, right? And now you have not just tort immunity, not just qualified immunity, but additional immunities and additional avenues to block claims against these federal agents, which has got to change. And so Illinois has done that, other states have done that. Hopefully the federal government will do that. But again, we have an avenue forward. We will take that avenue forward, and I'll take my chances with the federal district court judges in Chicago any day of the week.
So the FTCA claim would be against DHS specifically, any other agencies?
The officer, yeah.
The officer himself?
Yeah. It'll be focused on the officer, it'll be focused on his actions. There'll be some other facts that'll come into play, of course, their policies, their training, his complete disregard of that, but it'll be against the officer himself.
Okay, so my understanding was FTCA claims are against the agencies. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
That's different, yeah.
Okay.
So
I know Miramar won't speak about this, but I'm talking about the State of the Union here. Looking forward to that. What are we hoping to accomplish there?
Look, one, it's an honor for her, right? As we were speaking earlier today, I mean, very few people get to go to the State of the Union, and I think it's appropriate for Miramar. She actually got multiple invitations while in D.C. She accepted Congressman Garcia's early invitation, and he has been a supporter of hers from the beginning, so she's excited to go with him. But, I think, look, prior to this, as Miramar said in her statement in D.C., she supported law enforcement like I think most of us do. I think it's important for her to sort of go to D.C., which is the heart of the people who are putting out these attacks against her, and show that she is a fighter, right? That they haven't killed her, one, and that they haven't prevented her from standing up for herself. I mean, most people, again, who have their indictment dismissed are like, I'm done. I'm out of here. Don't poke the bear. I mean, Miramar, to her credit, has said, this isn't about me. It's about the Good family. It's about the Preddy family. It's about other people that they can see what Chief Bavino was saying in the immediate aftermath, so they can put pressure on elected leaders to either cut funding to ICE or do other things to make sure that these agents who are on these text chains about "yours on me, you're a fucking legend," right? That they're not the people that are being sent out on the streets. And if she doesn't do it, I don't know who is. So not many people have survived these shootings.
I mean, a lot of obviously, for getting this released for you was clearing that label of domestic terrorist. But to your point that people see and hear what they want to see these days,
yeah.
Do you believe that you at least get to do that in part with this?
I mean, look, again, I think the clearest examples are the 5 shots through the windshield. Like, I don't care who you are or what network you watch. That's just, you can look at the photos we've released and see that's not true. And I think we were boxed in and we couldn't move, so we had to get out and shoot. You can see from that video that's just simply not true. So, so much of the world right now is divided on, should Miramar have been following them? Should she have been beeping her horn? That's besides the point. At the end of the day, you have federal agents who are lying about what actually happened, right? If the truth, you don't need to lie if the truth is okay, right? They had to draw in those 3 cars because they know what they did to her was so unacceptable that even the most right-wing news observer would say, geez, they really overreacted. They probably shouldn't have shot her. And then people should see that email from Bavino being like, do I really want my leaders of Border Patrol to be rewarding officers before any investigation is done? Again, do the investigation. And if you want to come out and say, this was a good shoot, that's fine. But do not promote agents while the woman they just shot is still in the hospital fighting for her life without any actual objective investigation. That's what this is about.
For people who they've heard phrases like absolute immunity applied in Minneapolis, and regardless of how they feel about the crackdown politically, pragmatically, what do you hope to accomplish with your case, with your law, whether it's tied to the officer, the agencies, and what do you think maybe is realistic under this kind of election?
That comment of absolute immunity was from J.D. Vance, which is totally incorrect. He's walked it back as much as somebody in this administration possibly could, in that he just avoided the question. But no, we can go forward. We can hold them accountable. We do have avenues. It's not the easiest. It's not geared towards justice. But with these these facts, this client, we'll hold them accountable.
What does that look like, though?
It looks like the FTCA claim and the lawsuit that goes with it, and then it looks like a kind of a parallel civil rights claim under the Bivens exception. And it'll be in federal court in Chicago, and we're going to actually make it a little bit more expansive, and that we're going to try and make some good law, too, in this case, to have some of these issues taken up on the Seventh Circuit and beyond to try and establish a precedent so these cases are easier to be brought and go forward. But we do have a path forward.
So just to be clear with this, since we have to wait at least 6 months for the federal lawsuit,
Yes.
does that mean that the earliest that you would be filing that would be maybe late summer?
So we are going to mail and email the FTCA complaint today. We'll provide that to you. It's a one-sheet form. There's a narrative that goes along with it as an attachment. That narrative is in our client's voice about what she observed. But it is not like your typical 30-page complaint that you would see that would be electronically filed with Cook County or federal court. So yes, we'll release that after we send it to the Attorney General for the Department of Homeland Security, and then we're going to wait our 6 months and we're going to file a lawsuit.
Is there any danger that an executive order could kind of be passed off? If the president decides to grant this kind of immunity, is that something that could eliminate this process?
I haven't heard him actually, deciding to or proposing an absolute immunity
as well.
Yeah, listen, anything is possible, right?
Anything you want to see?
No, yeah, exactly. I don't put a thought in his mind, but I don't think that'll be possible.
Can you be more specific about the kind of precedent that you're hoping to set with this?
Well, so, there's Bivens decisions going back 30 years, and they're narrower and narrower as the cases have gone forward, and it cuts off different individuals, pathway to court. In this case, it's a Fourth Amendment. It's clear use of excessive force. We believe that despite Bivens being very narrow, we still have a path forward under that claim, because this is, unjustified deadly force in every way, shape, or form. But we also will go forward with the FTCA claim in kind of parallel.
Can you describe how this has impacted Marimar's life and what you will be seeking in this suit 6 months from now?
So Marimar has gone through everything that Chris walked her through. She's shot 7 times. She almost bled out to death. She was waiting for medical care as she was interrogated by DHS agents. Emotionally, she's suffered throughout. She's still, suffering pain, limited use of her hand, her legs. And this release of the evidence that just came out on Friday, this is the first time she's seen a lot of it over the weekend. And this was just re-traumatization of her going through this. And it's not so much reliving what happened. It's the fact that she sees federal agents, government officials, all the way up to the highest levels, willing to lie about what happened to her as a U.S. citizen and justify the attempt murder by one of their agents. So the trauma that she suffers is physical and emotional. As far as seeking damages, we can only, as Chris said, there should be an investigation. This agent should be off the streets. I believe he should be criminally prosecuted. We have none of those powers. We can hold them accountable monetarily, and we'll be asking for damages in the tens of millions of dollars when we do get our day in court.
Yes, and then you mentioned the U.S. Attorney's Office in South Bend doing an investigation. It sounds like it's been weeks, though, since you've heard from them. Has there been any contact, communication, reach out with the State Attorney's Office?
To date, there has not been officially. I mean, we will get there if necessary. My hope is that the FBI is still the FBI that I used to work with, and that they'll eventually respond. I mean, they have not approached us to give us the car back, so I'm still hopeful that somebody there is going to do the investigation that we've been told is going to happen with the Minnesota shootings. At some point, if nothing happens, we're going to reach out and say, we'll take the car back. We'll do our own investigation. But again, as a former federal prosecutor, my hope is that the FBI will not completely abandon its duty to investigate this as they should and as they started to. And again, they were lied to, right? I mean, the agent who took the report from Agent Exum about shooting 5 times through the windshield, I mean, he now has clear proof that's not true. The agent who took the report from his partner that said we couldn't go forward, we were boxed in, he now has conclusive proof that's not true. I mean, these guys are special agents with the FBI. They're investigators. They should be like, it's a 1001, right, crime to lie to a federal agent, even if you are a federal agent. So somebody should be doing their job, and we're hopeful that that will happen.
Has anyone been in touch with the families of Renee Good or Alex Preddy about the release of this evidence?
We have not. Miramar was able to meet with the brothers of Renee Good in D.C. last week, and I know that meant a lot to her. But we have not coordinated with them other than our public statements that part of the reason that Miramar is doing this is to kind of give those families sort of a window that unfortunately right now they don't have into who these people are that killed their family member.
Marimar, en este punto, ¿tú temes por tu seguridad?
Miramar's not going to take any questions, okay? But thank you. Is there anything else before we head out?
One more question about possible avenues. Would you have any kind of claim against DHS officials for slander or, for all the lies? If you could prove that they knew what they were saying wasn't true, is that some kind of case you could bring?
We're going to explore it, but to Charlie's point, the immunities are pretty extensive, and we'll put it in the complaint. Whether we can get it passed, motion to dismiss, and the like, that's kind of up in the air. But it's part of the story. It's the truth. They lied. So it's going to go into our complaint.
Michael, it's Mike, right?
Michael.
I'm just getting a little bit kind of take notes.
Sure.
But today is a civil lawsuit, and then there's a federal lawsuit in 6 months?
So today we'll be filing the FTCA claim, Federal Torts Claim Act complaint. And it's a one-page form that just has real basic information that's literally typed into a preset form, along with a narrative typed out that's through Maramar's perspective of what occurred. It says, talks about her physical injuries, some of the eyewitnesses, and that's the extent of it. It's a total of 5 pages. It's not your typical lawsuit that we'd file. That would be 30 pages with, facts and allegations laid out.
Today is the first step towards a federal lawsuit.
Today is the first step.
Okay, and you mentioned there you will receive tens of millions of dollars in this case.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you.
There are at least 2 other cases in Chicago that are filing similar torts cases. Have you been in contact with those individuals about how the process has been moving in their cases at all?
You want to do a shout out to Dean? So I don't know exactly which attorneys you're talking about.
One of them would be for Alderwoman Jessie Fuentes. She filed a torts claim a couple months ago, alleging use of force from a federal agent who arrested her inside a hotel for trying to a hospital.
Sure.
And then another one is a protester, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. So, this is just another example of other individuals trying to pursue the same avenue that you all are.
The answer is no, we haven't talked to them. If they want to call coordinate and actually help each other out. We're all for that, but we have not talked to them.
Chris and Michael, could you again state your first and last names and spell them?
Sure.
for us?
Chris Parenti, ChrisParente.
Michael Gallagher, Gallagher.
I usually speak more, but I'm not today. Damon, Damoncheronis.
And again, we do want to thank the press. I mean, the reason that this matters, right, the trial is typically where we put this stuff out there so that people can see it. Obviously, by dismissing the case, which we're thankful for, we didn't get a chance.
All right, we've been listening into a news conference live in Chicago. A 30-year-old Miramar Martinez, her lawyers announcing a lawsuit, a civil suit against the Trump administration. She was shot 5 times on October 4th during Operation Midway Blitz. There were assault charges initially filed against her. Those were dropped, and they were making some parallels here between the investigation here, the actions here, and what happened here in the Twin Cities that led to the death of 2 people, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. But again, civil charges filed against the Trump administration on her behalf, particularly for some of the things that they did in calling her a domestic terrorist after the event. Right now, we're going to switch over to a regular briefing from Twin Cities leaders talking about the end of Metro surge in the Twin Cities. This is a county commissioner speaking now about potentially bringing this surge to an end. Let's take a listen.
Thank you to all the officials that joined on today. I just want to uplift the fact that in this moment, in this ICE occupation and invasion, there is a segment, a large portion of our community that is living a completely different life in the shadows. People are afraid to go to work. They're sheltering in place. Some of them have been sheltering in place for months. They have many bills that they need to pay and they have not been able to pay, including rent. And that's why that rental assistance and any other type of assistance from government is going to be key. Even after the surge ends, we're going to be in years and years of recovery, and it's going to be the work of local government and state government to come together to ensure that we recover and that our community members, especially our Black, Brown, Indigenous community members, are supported. I've heard several stories from community members who have reached out. They have lost their partner due to ICE detention, and it's themselves and their children that they need to take care of. They're struggling to get basic groceries. They used to be able to go to their job safely. Now they're not able to. In some cases, they are still going to work, but their workplace is so impacted that making payroll for them is difficult. And that's a bit affecting their ability to just live their lives, to have a place to live that is safe. The other thing that I wanted to highlight to community members is here in downtown in our Government Plaza campus, there has been an increased level of ICE presence. Just the other day, there were 6 Wagoneers parked on a bike lane on parking that was designated for police detail that was not supposed to be there because there was unfortunately a meeting with Tom Homan held here at City Hall, and that scares surrounding community members. It scares our city staff. We have seen ICE agents just yesterday in the Hennepin County Government Building. They took a young man, and it caused a lot of chaos and fear, and several community members, and I'll speak for myself as an elected official, I'm deeply concerned by the collaboration that we're seeing from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. And I hope that there is an answer to that. And I hope that there is a change. Forming a perimeter and allowing ICE to create chaos in our government buildings is something that I certainly can't stand for. And so those will be things that we will continue to raise as elected officials and want our community to be aware. I also just want to say everyone is being asked to do way more than they should ever have to do. And the reality is the drawdown, the so-called drawdown hasn't occurred. And we want to see a full drawdown. We want to see no ICE in our communities. And even after that, community members are going to need to step up in their mutual aid networks to make sure that everyone is okay, everyone is safe. Our next city council meeting is going to be a meeting of our super committee of the whole on February 17th. That starts at 9:30 a.m. There will be several items related to the ICE occupation and invasion there that I encourage community members to join. We are also going to be discussing a liquor license renewal of a couple of hotels where community members have flagged to us their concern over the fact that there may be ICE agents at hotels, and that has created a level of public safety issues. And the city council regularly has committee meetings on licenses to ask about public safety concerns, to investigate, to learn more, because we want to make sure if we're granting a license that community members are safe. And so there will be a public comment period about that available to community members that same day. Our next Metro ICE Out report is going to be on Friday, February 13th at noon. We're going to do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday until we don't have to do this anymore. There's going to be several different elected officials from different levels of government that come on each time to give updates and share as things evolve here on the ground in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
All right, that is the end of a tri-weekly briefing from Metro leaders. That is Councilmember Chowdhury, who represents portions of Southeast Minneapolis, who's sort of the de facto host here. Before that, peek behind the curtain, Amber. Well, I was listening to the news conference in Chicago live. You were listening live to this Metro briefing as we were waiting to go to that. We came in at the tail end of this, but there were a couple of points here that they discussed that you wanted to point out.
A couple little nuggets here. So we just missed Hennepin County Commissioner Angela Conley, who said that she was just having a discussion recently with the border czar, Tom Homan. As people know, he's kind of the point person now here leading Operation Metro Surge in the Metro. And she was saying that in that conversation with him, they were talking about a drawdown, and not only a drawdown, but a potential end to ICE operations in the Metro. No date on this, no timeline, no exact plan, but she said that Tom Homan said an end to the ICE operations is also his goal. I think important to note, 24 hours ago, we just heard the governor say he expects that ICE operations could end in a matter of days. Yeah. Days, not weeks, not months, is what he said. And again, this is the governor yesterday saying that that is what he expects, not what he was told by Tom Homan or any other official with the Trump administration. But we're starting to hear, I think, a bit more from our local and state elected leaders that they kind of see a light at the end of the tunnel here. So it's important to note.
That's what, and the governor mentioned, that he's had conversations with Tom Homan, that he's had conversations with the White House. I believe it was the chief of staff, and that he expected, a more significant drawdown, if not end. I mean, ICE, there's always an ICE presence here, but typically it's under 100 officers. And Tom Homan's made very clear that that is his goal here. And he's had so many meetings with state leaders and local leaders, whether it's county attorneys, the Sheriff's Association, sheriffs individually, et cetera, in terms of trying to, bring this down to a what they would call a normal level of enforcement here. The last couple of weeks we've had a Tom Homan press conference or news conference on Thursday mornings. We've not heard about another one for tomorrow. It's possible if he follows his pattern, maybe, but we've not gotten any notification of that as of yet.
Not yet. I mean, fingers crossed with all the talk this week. It would be nice to get an update from their side as well.
One other thing you said you heard in there too was potential legislation with the session begins here in Minnesota next week. We've heard in previous briefings various legislation talked about that will probably be introduced, and this one was about keeping ICE operations off of school property.
Yes, keeping federal agents out of school property. Again, we haven't seen any legislation quite like that yet. This, again, would have to be introduced at the session next week. It remains to be seen where that might go, how much support it might get. You would presume probably pretty strongly along party lines, right? We have seen I believe it was about a week ago, a group of schools came together to sue to stop federal agents. So this potential state legislation would be in addition to those lawsuits.
Those lawsuits, yeah.
So, but again, I don't really have a ton of details on that yet. I just heard Representative of Minneapolis, Sidney Jordan, mention that, and I'm doing a little bit of digging back here still to see what else I can figure out.
Yeah, and we'll see here as that session gets underway next week. You can imagine that there'll be, a number of different things proposed in bills.
We've already heard of a number of different things actually from these briefings.
Yeah.
So, civil lawsuits being allowed against federal agents. There was something else, and I'm blanking on it right now, but we've heard, I think we're up to about 3 different new pieces of legislation that would relate to immigration operations and federal agents here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So definitely going to be probably the biggest, I would assume, topic at the session this year.
That will certainly be a large topic, especially as they get underway and you see bills being introduced fairly quickly to get into committee hearings.
Yep.
All right, well, time to take a break here after a marathon first block here.
Marathon first block always is, and I've got more live stuff coming. I've got an eye in D.C. where the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi is still taking questions from the House Judiciary Oversight Committee, I believe.
Yep.
And that's been going on since 9 a.m. So we're running on 3.5 hours.
And some of it that you and I were watching bits and pieces of that. Some of it getting very animated here with, especially when it comes to the Epstein files and what was redacted and what was not redacted.
Correct.
Was a very, very sharp line of questioning where she was getting very, very, defensive. And,
lots of shouting matches, to be honest. And it's somebody in there compared it to a circus. And I have to say, as an observer from up here, I agree. It was crazy. So we're going to take a break. We'll head there on the other side, 2 minutes out.
All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Fox 9 All Day Live on this Wednesday afternoon as the skies continue to be gray, but the temperatures continue to climb. We'll check on the weather with Jared Piepenberg a little bit later in the show here to see what you can expect for the weekend and beyond. This morning, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi's been facing a lot of questions in the House Judiciary Committee, which is where many of the lawmakers have legal backgrounds. And the topic today is the oversight of of the Department of Justice. Now, the hearing began around 9 o'clock our time, so it's been going for a while, but it quickly became heated and has remained that way. They're discussing immigration operations, fraud, and the Epstein files. That's really where I heard it getting pretty combative. It's still going on, so let's take a listen in.
Aliens. Yet, on June 1st, 2025, Mohammed Solomon attacked members of the group Run for Their Lives in Boulder, Colorado, where an 82-year-old woman sustained burns on over half of her body and eventually died from her injuries.
I believe that she was a Holocaust survivor.
She was.
The time the gentlelady has expired, the gentlelady yields back, and the gentlelady from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Bondi, as the Florida Attorney General, attorneys from your office handled the appeal of my son, Jordan Davis's murder, which was denied. As a result of the efforts of those attorneys under your watch, the court actually upheld the life sentence for a man who used prejudice as his defense for murdering my son and scarring his friends for life. Attorneys from your office, under your management, worked hard to remove a dangerous man from the community who terrorized innocent people like my son and his friends. The compassion and respect that my family received throughout that ordeal were critical in helping us keep faith in the rule of law and justice. Based on my experiences, I have seen how strong victim services, sustained investigations, and well-supported prosecutors can make a meaningful difference in the lives of families who are grieving and suffering. Ms. Bondi, just yes or no, would you agree that government officials should be respectful and supportive of victims' families as they mourn?
First, Congresswoman, thank you for talking about that, and I'm so very sorry for what happened to your family.
Thank you.
And yes, I agree with that with all victims, including the ones sitting behind us today. I absolutely do. And also, thank you for voting yes on the Lake and Riley Act.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so your answer is why the recent treatment of families in Minnesota raises really serious concerns for me. Because shortly after Mr. Alex Preddy was murdered, administration officials referred to him as an assassin and called Mr. Preddy the definition of domestic terrorism. They also lied about Mr. Preddy holding a gun and threatening officers. After Ms. Renee Good was murdered by ICE officials in Minneapolis, administration officials also accused her of being a domestic terrorist and investigated her wife in a clear act of retaliation. The statement Mr. Preddy's mother made after the murder resonated with me more than you'll ever imagine. She said that, and I'm quoting, "The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting," end quote. And I assure you, I know how it feels to hear lies that are told to justify the taking of someone's son. They were used by my son's murderer as a defense. And those lies still affect me today. He was called a thug, and he was called a gangbanger. And the attorneys from your office actually defended my son's name, his memory, and defended his honor. I'm certain that Mr. Preddy's mother watched videos of her son, Alex, an ICU nurse at the VA hospital, using his phone to record federal agents. She also watched him getting pepper sprayed, kicked, hit in the head, and surrounded by at least 7 agents before having his gun removed from his waistband, which he legally carried. And she watched seconds later as 2 of those agents shot her son Alex at least 10 times. The administration was quick to spew an incorrect narrative and call him so many things that they wanted us to ignore the truth that we actually saw with our own eyes. Ms. Bondi, will you denounce the statements that were made to tarnish the names of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, and will you protect their names like those attorneys back in Florida under your watch protected my son's name?
What I will say is we are looking at everything to shed light on what happened that day, and it is an ongoing and active investigation. Both of those cases, and I assure you they will be investigated.
investigating, we understand that, but will you do everything in your power, as you have done for my case, as you are asked to do, as you've sworn an oath to do? It is your responsibility to make sure that you are following the rule of law. Those families in Minnesota, they deserve the same respect. They deserve a full investigation, which you have not even begun to do yet. So what are you saying, is that they don't deserve any respect for a full investigation into their murders?
Well,
that
that's
is
not
incompetence on your behalf.
Well, that
the
is
American
not accurate.
people do deserve better. Non-commitment to defending the rule of law is what we see from you. I will always stand up for survivors, and I heard you say earlier when you told us that you will fight for them as well. And based on the information before us, these families have not received the same commitment to investigate what happened to their loved ones, nor have they received the respect that I would expect from the nation's top law enforcement officer. Investigations have been slow-walked, they've been canceled, and the special agent assigned to Renee Good's investigation resigned following pressure from your officials to reclassify Ms. Good's case.
Time of the gentlelady.
For families seeking answers and accountability. The withdrawal of investigative resources is simply unacceptable.
Has expired. The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Attorney General, I get the sense that we've lost a little perspective here. The most fundamental responsibility of government is to protect the lives and property of its citizens. Now, you cited some crime figures in your opening statement, and I wonder if you could repeat them, because I think it's one of the most extraordinary achievements of the Department of Justice in our history, and I don't think some of my colleagues heard you clearly.
Thank you, Congressman. And would you mind if I address something that Congresswoman McBath wouldn't let me address first?
Go right ahead.
The reason that she wants to continue to talk about Minnesota, which we will all day long, is she doesn't want to talk about her own jurisdiction in Atlanta, because she doesn't want to talk about Christopher Welcher, who traveled across state lines to try to meet, and nothing's funny about this, to meet and molest a 14-year-old girl in Georgia. That's why they're watching the clock, the American people should know, for the second it runs out, because they don't want to address anything in their jurisdiction. They're elected to represent people in their jurisdiction. We prosecuted illegal aliens who ran a large-scale meth operation in the Atlanta metro area.
You understand we don't prosecute, right, Ms. Mondi?
Madam Attorney General.
On the law,
Mr.
McClintock.
So yes, the statistics I spoke of earlier, Congressman, under the leadership of the FBI, historic work has been done. A drop 20% in the nationwide murder rate in 2025. Least murders in our country since 1900, and that is to the work because of the credit of Donald Trump.
It's not just homicides, is it? It's also other violent crimes, robbery. Could you go through that list real quick?
All right, we were listening in there to a House Judiciary Committee hearing that's been going on for about 3.5 hours now. As Attorney General Pam Bondi answers questions from that committee. This is oversight of the Department of Justice, and a number of topics covered. What we heard just there brought it back to the deaths here, the shooting deaths of 2 people in Minnesota, Alex Preddy and Renee Good, and a Congresswoman from Georgia, Democrat from Georgia, asking Pam Bondi about statements immediately in the aftermath of those shootings that painted them as either domestic terrorists or, in the case of Alex Preddy, an assassin, is what she said, and asking for apologies to the families and investigations into those shootings as well for the family's sake. But again, the time ran out. She couldn't respond to that before it went to the next question, and then she tried to respond to it there as well by talking about cases in Georgia. So this has been the combative nature that we've seen in this hearing all morning long and now into the afternoon, covering a number of topics, including, the shootings here, as well as the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. All right, a lot going on today. More live coverage here coming up next from Arizona, where we continue to follow the continued investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, now about 11 days ago, and big developments last night with the release of doorbell video from the night of the now alleged abduction, and now there was a person of interest or suspect that was detained but then released. We'll get the latest in a live report from Arizona. That's coming up here on All Day Live. All right, welcome back to All Day Live. Rob Wilson sitting in for Amy Hockert. You know, a lot of developments in the last 24 hours in the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. Again, she was last seen on the 31st. And last night we saw, certainly yesterday afternoon, we brought it to you here on All Day Live, video from her doorbell camera showing somebody outside with a mask, appeared to have a gun in a holster covering the camera. And then last night we heard reports of a man being detained for questioning who has since been released after some 8 hours or so of questioning. We're going to be joined now by Fox 10 Phoenix reporter Ashley Rodriguez, joining us from outside Nancy Guthrie's home. And thank you for joining us. What new information have they released now this morning? Anything following the questioning of this man who was at one point labeled maybe a suspect, maybe it's a person of interest, somebody they just wanted to question. What do we know since he's been let go?
Rob, it's so funny that you say that there's been a lot of developments in the last 24 hours, but at the same time, there's been no developments. So what we have today is we have a statement from the FBI, and they told us that they are going to be extensively searching multiple roadways in the Catalina foothills area, which is where I'm at right now. So that could mean that they either have new clues, new tips, or they're starting from scratch. And a lot of people were disappointed to hear that this man who says he was detained in connection with Nancy's disappearance was released, because that brought a lot of people hope when that alert came out last night. Now, this man, his name is Carlos Palenzuelos, he told us that he was detained during a traffic stop last night and then taken in for questioning. He said to reporters that he was completely shocked by this. He said, "I'm innocent. I have nothing to do with this." In fact, he told us that he doesn't even know who the Guthries are, and he doesn't watch the news, so he had no idea what was going on. And then his mother-in-law went and told the media that authorities came last night and searched their home. She gave him permission to, because she said they had nothing to hide. So then Yeah, they released him. We're going to go ahead and just move forward from that. I can tell you yesterday we were out here and we saw authorities going to the neighborhood of Annie Guthrie's house. That's nearby. That is Nancy's other daughter. They were going door to door, talking to neighbors, trying to see if they saw anything. We've reached out to the Pima County Sheriff's Department to get an update because remember, the last time Sheriff Nanos has given us any confirmation of anything was almost a week ago, last Thursday. So we're waiting to hear from them if they have any new leads or anything that they're excited to share. But I can say that I've been hearing that since these surveillance images were released, tons of tips have been pouring in, which is good news because in many cases, abduction cases or kidnappings are solved through public tips. But it also means that the task before authorities is still so monumental. And 11 days into this disappearance, and we still don't know where Nancy is.
Yeah,
Rob?
yeah, and you mentioned all the tips that are coming in, and it sounds like this Carlos, who was stopped and questioned, that came in off of one of these tips that came in that somebody maybe thought he might be the person seen in that doorbell video. What have you heard there?
So the only thing I have to tell you about that is he told the media. Again, we have to couch this in the fact that authorities have not confirmed to us that that is in fact the guy that they detained. So Carlos told the media, hey, the authorities detained me in connection with Nancy. He said that he was told that based on the surveillance video images, his face, and his cell phone data, that authorities somehow pinged his location to this area Sunday morning, early Sunday morning. And you have to remember, he was detained in Rio Rico, which is where he lives. That's about 60 miles or so from here, about an hour away. Mm-hmm. So that's all we've heard. But again, authorities are being so tight-lipped. They really are not telling us much that we can't even confirm to you that this is in fact the guy that was detained. So waiting on that update. I can tell you right here at the scene right now, it's quiet. We have one police cruiser behind me. And again, we have that update from the FBI saying that they're going to have authorities out searching the roadways. So we're expecting to see some activity out here, but nothing conclusive. Yeah, nothing hopeful to tell you. It's people are starting to fear the worst.
Those searches, those new searches that you're talking about, that's right in the area around Nancy Guthrie's home or in that neighborhood. Kind of give us the layout here of how close that is to where she was taken.
Yeah, so we have Tucson, and then north of Tucson is where I am. It's just outside of Tucson. It's called the Catalina Foothills. And as we've been describing this area, it has a lot of brush, it has a lot of cacti, it has a lot of trees. You can just see behind me some of the landscaping. It's thick. It's hard to see your neighbor's house. The driveways are windy. The streets are windy. In fact, this is an area that does not allow for light pollution. These are people that like to see the stars, and they have houses that are far apart from each other. So the fact that they're telling us that they are searching multiple roadways today, I mean, you can conclude what you want from that. You can speculate that they're potentially looking for clues or even a body, which, again, is it because tips are coming in and they know something that they're not telling us, or they just are starting from scratch and once again going back to search and rescue? Or just search and recovery.
You mentioned the searches around Annie Guthrie's home. That's Savannah's older sister. That happened in the last, was it yesterday or was it the day before where they searched near her home?
So last night, that's when we saw authorities, and they weren't searching her home. They were in the neighborhood, pretty much going door to door, knocking on people's doors, have you seen anything? Which kind of tipped us off. Maybe they got a tip in that something happened and it started in Annie's neighborhood. Over the weekend, we saw them actually go into her home and search, which requires a search warrant. So again, do they know something? Do they have some kind of evidence that they presented to a judge to get that search warrant? And they came out with evidence bags, but without any confirmation from authorities. This is all speculation.
Yeah, so much unknown here, and those questions continue to just mount. And especially as you mentioned, it's this person who was detained and questioned is saying he was detained and questioned. with no confirmation from the authorities here, from the sheriff's department, that yes, this was the same person. We're just having to take his word for it, because why else, would he have any other motivation to say that if it wasn't him?
And Rob, we have to remember that the release of those surveillance images is huge. It really is huge. It could lead to a break in this case. I mean, at least we have something to go off of. It's terrifying, just the imagery of that man masked with a gun. So from what I understand from law enforcement experts, there's a lot that they can gather just from those images. They can look at the eyes, they can look at the body language, the gait, the build, the height, and they could potentially involve AI to get a better sense of what the face would look like. And then, putting that out to the public, that could jog someone's memory or make someone think, I know eyes like that, or something. So with the new tips coming in, with the images that we have now, there is hope that we will see some developments in the coming days, Rob.
Yeah, one final question here, and that is, you mentioned that we haven't heard anything from authorities. They haven't had a on-camera briefing here. What has been the relationship like with the sheriff's department and others during this? I saw that, we saw on X where they said, please, media, don't order food to the crime scene, and I don't know what that was all about, but I don't know if that led to some breakdown in maybe some of the relationship there, about saying, please respect the crime scene. What's been happening?
Yeah, we're out here all day. We're hungry. We might as well bring tents and beds at this point. I mean, the entire block is taken over. These poor neighbors, these poor residents, they're so sick of us. And yes, one of my colleagues probably made the mistake of getting a pizza delivered to this house. But that being said, the FBI hasn't really spoken to us other than the statement today. Sheriff Nanos was really talkative the first day, last Monday, and he was doing one-on-ones with the media, and he was readily available. And then when I was at the press conference on Tuesday, he pretty much walked that back and was like, look, guys, I got to focus. I have so much work. And in talking with law enforcement experts about how this investigation has been conducted, they are critical. They say that Sheriff Nanos has been bumbling. He's been walking words back. He's been showing emotion, and kind of unprofessional behavior. I mean, this is a relatively small town. This is probably the biggest case that he's ever had to deal with, which is a good thing that the FBI are involved. But after that feedback, and I guess the pressure on him from all of these media requests, I think he started to shut down. So then the last time we heard from him was another press conference on Thursday, and we have not heard anything since. Yeah. So now we're almost a week out from that, and we are all pressing the sheriff's department to give us something, because the speculation just keeps going and going and going, and we just want to know, where is this investigation at? Do you have any critical hard leads that you're following right now, and can we still have hope that Nancy's alive, that an 84-year-old woman is out there somewhere and you can find her? I mean, you could just imagine if it was your mother. It's heartbreaking. Rob?
Yeah, certainly. Those lines of communication, even if they don't have much to update you on, at least it's you feel like there's still a flow of information, or that we don't have more information, but that communication line remains open.
And Rob, I don't want to be too critical, because I think all of us can agree that this is such an odd case. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've had ransom notes come in involving Bitcoin and deadlines that have come and passed and nothing happened. I mean, these alleged ransom notes were asking for, $6 million in Bitcoin, but then never had opened a line of communication with the Guthrie family in the first place. So I guess they were illegitimate. Who would want to take an 84-year-old woman out of her home? There's just so many things that we do not understand. Why is there blood at the front door? Did this person know her? Was she targeted? Was this random? Is this about Savannah Guthrie? So we are all hoping and praying that investigators are getting closer and closer to some kind of hard break in the case.
Ashley Rodriguez, thank you for taking an extended time with us here today to talk about this. I know it's been pressing on a lot of people here across the country, and a lot of work being done out there. Thanks again.
No problem, and I will not be ordering pizza.
Good to know. Thank you much. All right, we got to take a quick break here on All Day Live. A busy day here, but we will be right back.
For you.
All right, welcome back to All Day. Rob Olson in for Amy Hockert again today. And a little bit ago, we took you to the House Judiciary Committee. It's the Department of Justice oversight hearing where Attorney General Pam Bondi has been facing a lot of questions on a number of topics here. This has been going on now for 4 hours. We were talking about the Epstein files, talking about investigations into the shootings related to immigration enforcement. We're going to dip back in and take a listen for a little bit more.
Who is Chris Malin? Was the president aware? Please stop talking. It is not your time to ask questions. It is not your time. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chair. One second.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Vermont.
Was the president aware of Secretary Lutnick's ties to Epstein when he chose him to lead the Department of Commerce? Was he aware?
Chris Malin was a Border Patrol agent.
Okay, so I'm going to conclude that the president, in fact, did know about his ties because he was the next door neighbor.
Shame on you.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
You're
this
from
is
a tiny,
pathetic.
beautiful
This is pathetic, Mr.
Committee will be in order.
Chair. I am not asking trick questions here.
You
The
got your
American
5
people
minutes.
have a right to know the answers to this. These are senior officials in the Trump administration. This is not a game, Secretary.
I'm Attorney General.
My apologies, I couldn't tell. By 2008, we knew that Epstein was a convicted sexual abuser. And we now know that Lutnick went to Epstein's Island in 2012. How was that not a deal breaker for the president? And why aren't you asking questions of the Commerce Secretary about what he saw when he was at the island, which he lied about not ever going to? Why are you not asking these questions? And I see that my time is almost expired, so I will say this. Do the right thing, Attorney General. Meet with the survivors. They have been asking for a year. Meet with the survivors. Do the right thing. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 5 minutes.
May I have 20 seconds of his time?
That'll be up to the gentleman, but.
Absolutely, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you. I was curious if you, Congresswoman, asked Bill Clinton that. Didn't see one tweet, not one. I didn't see one tweet when Joe Biden was in office about Bill Clinton. Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once when he was.
Weak sauce.
And also, I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
is
Jewish.
I just want to be clear.
Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Or do you want to go there? Are you serious? Talking about anti-Semitism to a woman who lost her grandfather in the Holocaust?
My time.
Really?
The committee will be in order.
Talk to Jared Wise about anti-Semitism.
The ranking member knows that.
Can I get like 30 seconds back?
Yeah, I've been.
I
think the whole committee knows. I've been very generous in making sure everyone gets their 5 minutes in the same.
Attorney General, I'm going to talk about sanctuary cities for a second, which limit the federal government's ability to enforce immigration law. They're kind of a new thing that Democrat jurisdictions are doing. They're in violation of federal law. During President Trump's first term, he rightly targeted sanctuary jurisdictions to try to force them to cooperate with federal immigration law. Federal immigration law, mind you, that was voted on in 1996 most recently in a bipartisan Congress, signed by a Democrat president. But they are in violation of that law. These states and jurisdictions feel entitled to certain grants, of course. Y'all are combating that. Do sanctuary policies limit the federal government's ability to accurately estimate how many criminal illegals are in the country?
Yes.
Thank you. This means that the number of illegals could be higher, probably higher. Does this hurt the federal government's ability to carry out immigration laws designed by Congress?
Yes, Congressman.
In your opinion, do you believe that the Biden-Harris administration and Democrat pro-sanctuary policies make our communities safer and for the American taxpayer? Do sanctuary policies make our communities safer?
No, Congressman.
I want to do a brief video to highlight sanctuary cities. So what's strange to me, if you look at this board behind me, in New York, there are 7,000 criminal illegal aliens since January 20th of last year that have been released into the public because New York is not honoring detainers requested by ICE. California, similarly, has released 4,500 criminal illegal aliens. There are 33,000 under detainer in California alone. And of the people released, I think it's remarkable that those released in New York, 29 homicides, 2,500 assaults, almost 200 burglaries. These are people that are released into our community by these states that refuse to cooperate. Last August, Michael Jordan Castellano Fonseca, a criminal illegal alien with ties to Tren de Agua, shot 2 people in front of 5 children in the sanctuary state of Colorado. DHS lodged a detainer on him. He's awaiting trial, but the question is whether Colorado's sanctuary policies will prevent him from being removed from the country. Yes or no? Do you think that sanctuary jurisdictions, if they cooperated with ICE, those illegals in custody could be transferred to ICE properly instead of being held in taxpayer-funded jails and then released into our community?
Yes, Congressman.
Wouldn't it be more efficient and safer then if Democrats simply cooperated with the federal government, these sanctuary jurisdictions cooperated with the federal government and honored ICE detainers? And why? Why do you think?
Of course, because so many criminals are running to sanctuary jurisdictions. Many of your colleagues across the aisle who we've seen speaking today about Epstein don't want to talk about the illegal criminals in their own jurisdiction for that reason. And yes, we need to do everything we can to work together to make America safer, and they're not doing that.
This is not a partisan issue. People want to feel safe in their communities. Nobody wants a criminal illegal alien released into the street. I think that the thing that maybe the American people don't quite understand is that when you do not honor a detainer, as we've seen, an illegal is released into the public, and now it's up to ICE to maybe apprehend them, rather than behind the courtroom passing them off from one law enforcement to the next. Is that true?
Absolutely.
What do you think what is the Department of Justice doing right now to combat sanctuary policies in our country?
We're doing everything in our power, obviously, to combat that. Donald Trump is doing everything he can because we are going to make America safe. We are going to get illegal criminal aliens out of this country. We're going to get the gangs out, TDA, MS-13, all of the gangs in this country. We're going to get the drug dealers out and the drugs, and that's what we've been fighting to do. And I wish we could do it on a bipartisan basis, but they just can't do it.
And the decrease in numbers speak for themselves. Thank you for your work.
Gentleman's time.
Mr. Chairman, we have some UCs, if that's okay.
That is okay.
Mr. Cohen.
Thank you. You see on the National Institute of Justice's study on undocumented immigrants having an offender rate lower than U.S.-born citizens. I'd like to enter this in the record from 2024.
Without objection.
And I have several myself, Mr. Chairman. The Guardian, January 26, 2026, why is Trump granting clemency to convicted fraudsters?
Objection.
January 20, 2026, NBC, Trump's pardons forgive financial crimes that came with hundreds of millions of dollars in punishment.
Objection.
Washington Post, December 19, 2025, Trump's pardons wipe out payments to defrauded victims.
Without objection.
And finally, May 30th, 2024, Trump found guilty by Manhattan jury on 34 felony counts of fraud.
Without objection. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, glad you finally made it here after hiding for 4 months from this committee.
All right, we've been listening into a Department of Justice oversight hearing. This is in the House Judiciary Committee. Began about 4 hours ago with Attorney General Pam Bondi, and you can see the very contentious, combative nature of this questioning as it goes back and forth between Republican and Democratic members on this committee, discussing Epstein files, discussing immigration crackdown, sanctuary city policies there, and detainers, which have, of course, become a big topic over the last couple of months here in Minnesota about honoring detainers. Of course, there's various versions of what honoring a detainer means. There's a lot of push to be able to just go into prisons and jails, and the detainer would allow the federal government to take people out of custody into their own custody. The way it's been working here with the state prison system is that they serve a sentence, and upon their release, the Department of Justice and ICE is notified when somebody's being released, and then that transfer happens there. But again, this continues to be a point of discussion about when should that handover actually take place. Should it take place while they're still in custody before a sentence is completed, or if they're awaiting trial in a county jail? So that continues to be a big discussion there about how that should actually happen. We got to take a quick break here. We're going to be checking in here live with the Super Bowl parade in Seattle. Former Viking Sam Darnold. Yeah, that still hurts, doesn't it? Part of that parade. We're going to check on that and a lot of other stuff coming up on All Day Live. back to All Day Live on this Wednesday. It is Wednesday, is it not? I lose track here. Sometimes during the week it is Wednesday, and the Seattle Seahawks taking a Super Bowl victory lap around Seattle right now. So we are showing you a little bit of that. They had a ticketed trophy celebration that began at Lumen Field at 10:30 our time. The parade beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time. Going 2 miles through downtown Seattle, expected to take about 2 hours to do so, and the estimated fan turnout, again, prior to this happening, the estimates coming out of Seattle was between 750,000 and 1 million fans attending the parade along the route. So we've got video. We don't have any audio. We were going to try to take you and show you not just the sights, but the sounds of this victory lap, the victory parade of the Seahawks, but we can't hear anything right now. We'll see what we can do about that. So yeah, that is the coverage of the Seahawks victory parade after their decisive, if not a little dull win over the New England Patriots on Sunday. So that's what's happening there. We're keeping an eye on that. We'll dip back into that if we can hear anything at any point here. And then down on the lower part of the screen, you see Attorney General Pam Bondi, continuing to be sort of simultaneously grilled and applauded, depending on the party that the, member here of this committee belongs to. As many things in Washington, D.C. are very partisan, very drawn along party lines, and certainly many of these topics are very, very sharply so divided along party lines as they talk about immigration enforcement and the release of the Epstein files and investigations into fraud here in Minnesota and elsewhere. So I think at this point, Amber, do we want to go back into the hearing? Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on Seattle and certainly keep an ear on that as well, hoping for some audio. But right now, a little bit more from the House Judiciary Committee as they talk about oversight of the Department of Justice and Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Explode, correct?
Explode.
Does that sound about right that in September of 2020, 4 months before President Biden took office, there was a backlog of 1.5 million cases, but by the time President Biden left office, the backlog reached nearly 4.2 million cases?
It sounds about right, but I don't have the exact numbers.
It would be accurate to say that most individuals who file for asylum have a meritless or fraudulent claim?
Most. I don't have the numbers.
So does it sound correct that of the asylum cases adjudicated in FY 2023 under the Biden regime, that only 14% resulted in an asylum grant and only 12% in fiscal year 2024? Does that sound correct?
It sounds correct. I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers.
Could you get that information to us to verify that data?
I'll get all that information to you.
Under the Trump administration, immigration judges complete an average of 65,000 cases per month, the highest average completion rate in at least a decade. Does that sound correct?
That sounds correct.
Ms. Bondi, how many new cases under EOIR received in fiscal year 2025 have you all had? And of those, what percentage have been granted asylum? Do you know?
I can try to get you those numbers. I thought I had those.
That'd be great, because my question is whether President Trump's decision to pause asylum in the wake of the shooting of a National Guardsman by an Afghani here in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital, helped to stop the backlog in your office. Does that sound correct?
Yes, Congressman.
My point being that the leadership of this administration is ending the backlog, reducing the backlog, making sure that we don't have fraudulent asylum claims clogging it, and keeping Americans safe. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman.
So a couple other quick questions on another important topic that has been raised by colleagues on both sides of the aisle with respect to the Epstein case. A few questions. One, Jeffrey Epstein was charged in July 2019 for sex trafficking under the Trump administration in his first term. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman.
And that Ghislaine Maxwell was charged in 2020 also under the Trump administration, correct?
Yes, Congressman.
So it is safe to say that the administration led on that issue and that there was silence in the previous administration. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman. Almost complete silence from everyone who's been trying to still talk about Epstein. They didn't say a word under the Biden administration. Nothing.
And I want to make one other point and then another question, though, that is important. I want to make one observation, that is that we've heard the information today, which is troubling, that Jane Doe's, that victims' information was made public and was unredacted in the files that were released on Friday. So my question is, some of us had argued when we were dealing with the discharge petition in Congress that when Congress inserted itself into the process, that we needed to be very careful to ensure that we were protecting victims. So a question that is both, I just want to make that clear that some of us were fighting for that here, and we didn't get a chance to amend it or change it. So that was concerning. But a question a little more pointed, I have to say, is why, though, were the victims' names released that shouldn't have been? That there were names in the files, that these Jane Does, that their names shouldn't have been made public when there were some accusers whose names were redacted. That's question one. And question two was that Ghislaine Maxwell was put in jail for trafficking minors. Rightly so, and you properly said here at this table, you hope she dies in jail. Well, I want to know, will anyone besides her or Epstein, which I congratulate President Trump's previous administration and this Department of Justice for continuing all of that, but that they were indicted, but will anyone else be indicted and prosecuted under this, given the information that's in front of us? So 2 questions.
Thank you for letting me answer that. They didn't want to hear my answer on the other side. Yes, given the tight time frame of 30 days, I believe we got everything released within a little over 60 days. I'm talking as fast as I can. My time is up. We did the best we could immediately. If everyone's been coming to view the documents, if someone's name should not have been redacted, we're releasing it. If someone's name was redacted, we said right away, was not redacted and should have been, meaning a victim, we went back and redacted it. We're doing everything we can based on the tight time frame and over 3 million pages that we released that Donald Trump signed for pure transparency. Second, what was your second question?
About whether another individual will be indicted.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for asking that. And they never wanted to hear the answer to that. We have pending investigations in our office.
Time of the gentleman has expired. Unanimous consent request from the gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Thank you. I have several UCs as receipts. I'd like to have unanimous consent to introduce the National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, dated September 25th, 25.
Without objection.
The Bondi Department of Justice memo dated December 4th, 2025.
Without objection.
An article from Newsweek entitled DOJ Deletes Study Alleging Rise in Far-Right Terrorism, dated September 18th, 2025.
Without objection.
Notice article from October 3rd, 2025. Trump's directive on organized political violence could lead to increased surveillance of his critics.
Without objection.
Washington Post article, September 25th, 2025. Trump targets domestic terrorists, but only mentions the radical left.
Without objection.
Idaho Capital Sun, October 18th, 2025. Rest easy, Idahoans. The No King demonstrators are American patriots.
Without objection.
Attacks on freedom of speech, what nonprofits need to know, published by the National Council of Nonprofits, the largest network of nonprofits in America.
Without objection.
The Freedom from Religious Foundation warns that Bondi memo weaponizes federal law enforcement against non-Christians and dissenting viewpoints.
Without objection.
A Ken Klipperstein blog from January 28th, 26, ICE's secret watch lists of Americans.
Without objection.
And an Intercept article from February 2nd, 26, Trump calls his enemies terrorists. Does that mean he can kill them?
Without objection. The gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Attorney General Bondi.
Good afternoon.
Oh, you're right. Good afternoon. It's been a long day. I wrote this morning. We've known each other a long time, and I'll always be appreciative for your assistance when you were Attorney General in Florida after the shooting at my high school at Marjory Stoneman Douglas in my hometown of Parkland when we passed a bipartisan bill, the Marjory Stoneman Douglas School Safety Act, which was the largest policy response to a school shooting in American history. Your department also prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law a constituent of mine and former felon that had plans to kill me when he was picked up by law enforcement after he was target practicing in his backyard with 2 rifles, a scope, a silencer, 3,000 rounds of ammunition, an anti-Semitic manifesto. My name was the only name on their target list, and my kids found out about this from their friends at school. So thank you. However, the most transparent administration in American history. Before Trump, we didn't know the word transparency, apparently. It's been 12 months since you gave Republican influencers part 1 of the Epstein files. You said the list was on your desk. Then a memo came out and said that there was no list. Phase 2 of the binders never happened. The President of the United States says the Epstein thing is a hoax. He blasts his own base for wanting the release of the files. He blamed Barack Obama. Republicans voted against the release of the files in the Rules Committee. Then they refused to even return to the Rules Committee until they could be protected from future votes on the release. Speaker Johnson sends Congress home a day early before break. They sent the Deputy Attorney General to meet with Maxwell. She says something favorable about the president. Miraculously, she gets transferred to a minimum security facility. No one can explain why. Miraculously, the leaks to the Wall Street Journal stop. We come back from break. We have the Massey discharge petition. Republicans drop a rule, a non-binding resolution trying to kill the Massey discharge petition. The White House says passing the Massey discharge petition is a hostile act. Trying to stop the necessary 218 signatures, according to Republican members that signed it, the White House brought them into the Situation Room, you know, the place where the president goes for time of war, promising things like appropriations or maybe even to primary them. People in the room say you were there. It didn't work. We get the 218 signatures. We eventually passed the Massey petition. You guys didn't release the files. You were forced by Congress, every member of the House except one, and the entire Senate. The reason the president signed it is because it was a veto-proof majority. We can't agree on anything, and yet the entire House but one member and the whole Senate forced the administration to release the files. Kash Patel under oath said to Senator Kennedy, the FBI is not in possession of any credible evidence that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone but himself. We know now that's not true. According to documents, Epstein had a worldwide sex trafficking ring. Girls from Poland, Czechoslovakia, Russia, Paris, modeling agencies sending him girls. He even had a relationship with a summer camp where he groomed girls at a picnic table. Ghislaine Maxwell says 29 Epstein associates cut secret DOJ deals. Turns out there is a list. 6 names readily available if you unredact them. Co-conspirators named, but we got them when you unredact them. Maxwell recently tells a House Oversight Committee that she wants clemency to release more names. Kash Patel under oath said Trump's name appears less than 100 times in the files. We now know that's not true. Trump's name appears more times in the Epstein files than God's name appears in the book about God. Okay, by the way, this is the Trump Bible. Move over, King James. Trump's name also appears more times in the Epstein file than Harry Potter's name appears in the 7 books about Harry Potter. Lutnick says that in 2008, he went to Epstein's home, says he had a massage table in the living room, that Epstein said he got one every day, that it was the right type of massage. He and his wife decide to leave and say they'll never be in a room with him again. Howard then says, I'm sure the Epstein stuff is all on video. He was the greatest blackmailer of all time. Well, how would Howard know that? But now the files are public, and in 2012, we found out that he and his family are on Epstein Island after Epstein pled guilty to state charges. I'm from Florida. I take my family to Disney World, not to Epstein Island. There are documents in the files that dispute the president's claim that he kicked Epstein out of his club. Allegedly, the president said that he asked Epstein to leave. Supported now, that's disputed, though, statements from the manager of the club. Now, Madam Attorney General, I have like 25 seconds left. So because I'm curious, and I'd like to see you flip to the Jared Moskowitz section of the binder. I'm interested to see what staff provided on the oppo on me, and because we're in the Olympics, I'm going to give it a grade. I just want to see how good it is. So give me your best one.
So first of all, nothing is funny about mocking the Bible and holding up a Trump Bible. That's what you did. You made a joke, and I find offense to that. That's all I have to say.
I want it from the burn book.
Shame.
I want it from the burn book. Which is the best one? What you got?
Has expired. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to clear something up that was said earlier and is frequently said and is manifestly.
All right, we've been listening into the House Judiciary Committee oversight hearing for the Department of Justice, and this is what has been going on since about 9 o'clock our time this morning, with Attorney General Pam Bondi being questioned by members alternately from Republicans and then Democratic members here, and you can kind of see how this has played out, becoming very contentious and combative at times as they discuss. A lot of it focused around the release of the Epstein files, and certainly then the topics of fraud and immigration as well. But again, this has been very, very combative hearing here that's going on now for almost 4.5 hours. We're going to take a quick break, though, now on All Day Live. Coming up, we're going to get an update from Fargo about a murder investigation there and a man arrested for a woman that was last seen on New Year's Eve and not reported missing for about a week. That, and hopefully we get to talk about some of this weather, as we got a pretty uncharacteristic February warm-up in the works right now. We'll be right back. Fox 9, and we're taking another live look from Seattle. That is inside Lumen Field, which is where the Seahawks are celebrating their Super Bowl victory this past Sunday over the Patriots. So beginning, it's a ticketed event in Lumen Field, and then it's roughly a 2-mile route through downtown Seattle that the estimate here is it's going to take about 2 hours. So an hour per mile for the victory lap. But you know, why rush it? you get the Lombardi Trophy. Let's savor it and make it last. So this is the beginnings of that parade, then heading out of the stadium through downtown and then looping back into the stadium. I can't tell who that is. Keeping an eye out for Sam Darnold, who is still a Viking in my heart. No, we actually have some audio here. All right, we couldn't hear it earlier, so all right, well, we'll keep an eye on that. I don't know, what's the weather in Seattle? It looks pretty decent. Maybe somebody could tell me here.
I feel like they always have okay weather. Just okay.
It's never extreme. It's kind of like, because of that ocean effect, it's sort of like London, where it's never really hot, but it's never really cold.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest generally has kind of that, you know, it's just okay. It can be cloudy quite often out there, but it looks like a little sunshine on them. How about that?
Bit. You're listening to the dulcet tones of meteorologist Jared Piepenberg chiming in here about the Super Bowl. And I thought maybe we had sun peeking out of the clouds.
Just looking up there, it almost
46
in Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Per super senior executive producer Lori Fisher, 46 in Seattle. Which is, what is it here?
It must be lower 20s right now. This cloud deck just kind of has been holding us off. We're still going to go up here.
No, wait a second. I've got my phone says 36 here right now. Is that?
I haven't been outside in a while.
I haven't either.
It was chilly when I was out. I went over to the Minnesota Zoo this morning.
Oh,
so
you did?
We're out there, and then it just was still kind of crisp this morning.
Yeah, it's got that where it feels like it should be, for the number, it feels like it should be warmer, comparative to what we've been dealing with.
So
and you're
funny
like,
how we
oh, wait,
fluctuate.
no, I'm still cold.
Yeah, we couldn't wait for like 10 above, and now it's like, well, now that's a little cold.
No, that's a little chilly. Yeah, well, it depends if there's any breeze at all. It looks pretty calm up.
Actually, I was going to touch on that. This whole forecast is like barely any wind, like any day through probably Tuesday or Wednesday next week.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really nice. So we're going to have really warm temperatures. A lot of times this time of year that you need some wind to get that nice boost in the temperatures.
Yeah,
and this is
that south wind. Yeah.
Yeah, that south or southwest breeze. You're just like, oh, it's going to be warmer, but it'll come with a wind. And this isn't going to be the case. It's just a nose of warm air. And then with all the lack of snow in southwestern Minnesota, we'll just slowly see that eating away the farther you head up to the north and east. So, of course, those places are warming up way faster.
Looking out here, too, I mean, that snow has disappeared pretty quickly, even though we haven't hit the temperatures that we're going to hit yet.
No, it's there isn't a whole lot here. But the farther you head up into northern and northeastern Minnesota, they still have decent snowpack. So as you get some melting, or just believe it or not, I follow a bunch of ice anglers and
shocking
on YouTube.
Wow, really?
And I saw some of them like messaging like, "This is what I'm dealing with now, is that they have so much snowpack out on the ice that now it's all like slush and water on top." So they're dealing with that up north now, but. I mean, it's still so mild to be out there fishing, yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I put my skates on last night, got down to the park near my house to get a little skating in, and yeah, I haven't skated in a few years. Every winter comes along and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for the outdoor rinks to open. I can't wait. I'm going to go all the time. And all of a sudden I'm like, it's February and I still haven't gotten out there. So last night my older son was had gone down there. I'm like, oh, well, let me go join him. And we get down there and it's just he and I and this whole sheet of ice. I'm like, where is everybody?
Nice.
But you realize that they're open in the schedule is to be open through Monday. Through the holiday on Monday, but they're doubtful that they're actually going to make it there because a lot of this ice is going to be melting before we get to Monday.
Yep, it is. The afternoon temperatures from here on out just look so much warmer the next 7 days. So today is one of our coldest days of the forecast, and we're getting into the 30s here this afternoon. So we had the clouds that just kind of hung out and just temperature was holding up, and now you can see there in Maple Grove, the camera behind there, that people are doing some ice skating.
They're getting it in while they can.
So the clouds are moving on out. It should be pretty sunny, really mild afternoon, and there's really no wind until maybe Tuesday next week. There may be a slight breeze out there, but I mean, hitting 40s without wind and sunshine is just going to be so warm.
Yeah, we're talking about grilling weather. And,
I know.
For some people, it doesn't matter what the weather is. It's grilling time, and I agree with that too. We haven't used our grill in a while because I sort of gave up on shoveling the snow off the deck to get to the grill. Usually you keep that clean, but then I'm like, and when it got cold especially, and it just solidified, I'm like, okay, I give up. But we're gonna fire up that grill again here. I mean, what are we talking about for record temperatures here?
So there's only two that will come close to. Otherwise, the records are pretty far and above those numbers. But Friday, Saturday will come close. Friday's record is 51. So we're just, but I mean, like we're flirting with
close
records.
to it.
That's still worth it. And then 50 is the high on Valentine's Day.
And that's the record for Valentine's Day.
So we are
is
forecasting
50.
to tie a record.
Okay.
So it just kind of gives you an idea. And then you were talking about
I remember.
2017.
I distinctly remember that.
So that is the 17th, the 18th. Oh, see, the 17th, 18th, and the 19th. So
of 2017.
3 days in a row, we had records. I printed off a nice little sheet.
Yeah,
so I could.
He's a meteorologist.
But you did remember that. So we had 63 on the 17th, we had 58 on the 18th, and 59 degrees on the 19th. So 3 days in a row, record heat.
Yeah, and so we're going to be nowhere close to that. Those are the records that if we got there, it'd be like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, these are, you mentioned kind of the low-hanging fruit.
I heard Keith say that during 11 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that is a good way to put it.
I mean,
of all the records being in upper 50s to 60s this time of year, and they have a 50-degree high.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit easier.
It's still an impressive number for the time of year, but it's not that, like, unachievable.
Yeah, I mean, our averages are in the mid-20s still, so it's a lot to get up there still.
And then as you look out, and we looked at your extended forecast, no real like drastic changes coming for the foreseeable future.
You know, next week there's a couple waves that want to slide on through, but everything that we use models for guidance. Like everything recently that we've been like seeing far out, it seems like, oh, it wants to bring something in, and then it just really ends up not having any moisture to deal with it. So there's one for tomorrow that we were watching last week. It looked like, well, there might be a little bit of snow. When I was forecasting this last weekend, I was like, well, Thursday looks like we might see a little bit of snow, but now it's like, even though this wave slides on by, it might just end up being a little bit of cloud cover or really nothing. So that's what we're watching, that there's these waves, but the trend has been models are like, oh, we see something, and it turns into
and then
big
it
nothing.
kind of peters out.
So it might be a little bit of a breeze next week. I mean, there's a couple waves that could travel over the region. I think a lot of these may end up staying north of the metro, but I mean, the general trend is still to stay pretty warm.
Well, then if history and statistics are a guide, we can still expect some decent snowfalls before we hit April.
Yep, those late season snowstorms, they come here on the region. They have a little bit more moisture, so you get a little bit heavier snow, almost the back-breaking snow to get rid of too. And you're like, oh man, the snowblower doesn't even want to like work well if it gets really wet and warm. So I don't see any of those right now, but there's that time of year. It's the usual. There's those late season storms.
A couple of years ago, I remember we got about like a foot of snow on April 1st. And I called my brother up, who lives down in Des Moines. I'm like, hey, I see the Iowa Wild are playing tonight. Can you get some extra tickets to that? Because after I'm done clearing the driveway, I think we're going to get in the car and get out of here. We get down there, and people are wearing shorts. This is Des Moines. It's not that far. And the next day, I remember it was 70 degrees when we left there, and then we drive back home, and then all of a sudden we're back in a foot of snow.
Yeah, the one nice thing about it, if you're just like so sick of seeing snow in some years, by that time the sun angle is so much higher, we're just getting more sunlight that it just disappears so much faster too.
Yeah. All right, Jared, thanks so much. Appreciate you bringing in the printed off statistics.
Yeah, well, last year you were like, well, how much snow have we had? And I was like, I didn't have that. I'm like, it's something I should know. You called me out on it. Hey, no, it's put some pressure on me.
That's okay.
It's a little bit more. So we're just a little bit below average on snowfall.
Little bit below average.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not much. Only by a few inches.
And there's not much left out there.
Nope.
We're going to take another live look in here in Seattle, where the Seahawks, and again, we're all sort of, apologize to the Patriots fans out there. I know there are a number of those. But here we go. And no, that is not an earthquake. That is a photographer along the parade route trying to jockey for position here. There you go. Is the Seahawks victory parade rolls through about 2 miles of downtown Seattle here on what appears to be nice, sunny, 40-something degree weather out there. We're going to keep an eye on that, but a couple of other things, some live events coming up, including a news conference from Fargo. That's when All Day Live returns. Welcome back to All Day Live. Rob Olson in for Amy Hockert and Amber from the control room with some breaking news you want to get us filled in on.
I'm seeing reports coming in now from TMZ that actor James Vanderbeek has just died, 48 years old. He's been battling colorectal cancer since late 2024, and it looks like TMZ is getting this news from a representative of the local medical examiner's office. Said that they found out around 6:45, I'm assuming local time this morning, but no cause of death here officially given. Again, though, going on a year and a half about battle with cancer here. So actor James Vanderbeek, dead at 48. I would say best known for Dawson's Creek, right? 90s hit.
Yeah.
So just some really sad news.
Did a few movies, and then I remember a few years ago he was Dancing with the Stars.
Yep.
I can't remember what he placed in it, but I think he got quite a ways, or did he win? I don't remember now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Natalie Brinegar, if you're listening, let me know. She's a big Dancing with the Stars fan, so I'm sure she's got all of that locked in.
Wow.
I also, just so you know, I'm watching Fargo police giving an update on an arrest in a murder case that they've been investigating for about a month and a half now. But before we go there, I want to let people know that I'm learning about an incident in St. Paul this morning, a car crash involving federal agents. We've got some video here we can play, Danny. This happened around 9:30 this morning. We have confirmed involving federal agents. They say they were pursuing somebody when that vehicle crashed at the scene near Western and Selby Avenues. St. Paul police were there. The person involved suffered non-life-threatening injuries, so again, hurt but should be okay, taken to a nearby hospital. There was a bit of a crowd there that gathered this morning facing off of federal agents. The mayor there did release a statement on this, essentially calling for Metro Surge to end immediately, saying that this is doing nothing but causing more chaos.
Okay, we'll gather more information about that too to find out if there's any more details about what led to that crash involving federal agents.
Yep.
So the news conference in Fargo is underway.
Yep.
The arrest of 21-year-old Joshua Height of Fargo for murder. This involves 25-year-old Isadora Wengel of West Fargo, who was last seen New Year's Eve and reported missing then a week later. So we're going to listen into the news conference about this murder arrest in Fargo.
The evidence leading to establishment of the probable cause and arrest, I feel, is strong. Collectively, we all feel it's strong, and the investigation into his culpability will continue even post-arrest. However, in order to bring closure and justice to the family, we need to recover Isadora's body, and we're going to ask again for the public's assistance in doing so. As I said, we believe this to be a heinous and diabolical crime, and we believe that there may be some dismemberment involved. What we're asking the public to do, from Fargo to Moorhead to Fergus, Battle Lake, and Otter Tail County, is the following. Based on the fact that we know the disposal of her body occurred in extremely cold weather with significant snow on the ground, we now find ourselves in the midst of a midwinter thaw, which may reveal her whereabouts. We know that Mr. Height had sent and received a specific type of black tote, shown here on the screen. There was actually 2 of these delivered to his apartment. Only one was recovered during the search warrant on January 9th. We're asking community members in these areas to search their properties, especially those in rural areas near roadways throughout this area we've described, for any sign of this type of tote or any sign of Isadora. We certainly don't want anyone to endanger themselves during this endeavor, but simply, if they're able to do that, check their properties, and if they observe anything, this type of a tote or something they suspect to be potentially Isadora, notify the authorities, and we will take it from there. Going forward, this case will continue to be challenging, but we're committed to justice for the family and accountability for the perpetrator. Again, the uniqueness of the case at this juncture, without having the actual body of the victim, creates some difficulties that we would not normally have to overcome. But I would say, based on really outstanding and tremendous investigative work, we've gotten to the point where we're able to make an arrest, and we feel we have a strong case to move forward. But we will continue to need these other pieces, and we'd really appreciate the public's assistance on this next piece. People have been tremendous in sending us video. All of those things that have happened over the last 35 days have been significant in making progress in this investigation. So please, in terms of the public, help us help the family in this heinous incident so that we can bring it to full fruition. In terms of how to manage tips, if you're in the Fargo-Moorhead metro area, serviced by the Red River Regional Dispatch Center, call the non-emergency line and let them know what you found, observed, any information. They will forward that to our department so that those leads will be created and followed up on. If you're out in Otter Tail County, out in those areas, call your local jurisdiction. Same thing, we've had tremendous assistance from Fergus Falls, Otter Tail County, all those entities out there. Everyone is tracking what we're trying to accomplish. So just go through those jurisdictional authorities, and we can certainly follow up from there. Again, I want to send our condolences to the family. This is a very rough time for them, as you can imagine. This is a crime that is hard to imagine someone could commit, but we believe this is exactly what's happened. And we really need some additional assistance in bringing it to full fruition. And also want to recognize this really outstanding work of all of these personnel across the board in all these different entities. They have worked tirelessly, many hours, many days, weekends, etc., to get us to this point. We're committed to finishing. I am able to take a couple questions, but I'll just caution you that I'm not able to provide any more specific evidentiary information.
Yeah, Chief. There we go. In the event that this could possibly be a case of human remains maybe being transported across state lines, is there a chance that federal authorities could have a greater role in this case at some point in the future?
That would involve potential federal violations if that were the case, yes.
Two questions. The first one was Mr. Hite, the man who was originally detained when the search warrant was served in early January.
Yes, he was.
What changed between then and now that led to his arrest yesterday?
Sure. We did the search warrant on January 9th, a couple days after the initial report. And there was no probable cause to make an arrest at that time. So I think obviously he was a strong person of interest. And the work that's been done over the last 35 days developed that probable cause, which puts us in a position to make that arrest.
Can you say what that is?
No, I can't get into those specifics, but there's a lot of efforts, some that are still even ongoing as we speak in terms of scientific evaluation and things of that nature.
Are you able to say anything about their relationship, how long they had been together?
I don't know, but we can probably find that for you.
Over the last few days, this case has gotten some national attention on some outlets. Has that at all helped you here locally with this case and where we are today?
Well, I think the connection, if you're referencing like the Guthrie kidnapping in Tucson, I think that this case has drawn that national attention following maybe that particular investigation. But certainly the more that gets out it would only help the case at this juncture because we really need that assistance. Whether that's national or not, I think the answers probably lie here in the Minnesota, North Dakota region, but certainly getting that information out is helpful.
As far as it pertains to what the public can assist with, I just noticed that the original post asking for people to be on the lookout in Otter Tail County for the Subaru Impreza has been updated to just say, you know, we still need more information. Are we basically only looking for Isadora and or the tote, or is the Impreza still of any evidentiary value?
I think the focus, the big priority needs to be Isadora and the tote. And I think if there's other information that filters in about that car, that's still good information that we would want to have. But as I said, really from the family perspective and the ability to bring this case through the justice system, we really need to locate her.
Now that he's been detained, has he been cooperative? And one would believe maybe not, because you haven't found Isadora.
Well, he's been arrested, which is, yeah, that's fine, no problem. And we're not able to comment on any of that information that's investigatory in nature. But I would also, as you may remember from the first press conference, this caused, I think, some questions on your part when we said she was last seen on December 31st, and the father reported her missing on January 7th. We went with the 31st because that's the last day that the father saw her. We found statements from Mr. Haidt regarding when he last saw her to not be credible. So along those lines, we're going to keep everything open.
All right, we've been listening into a news conference live from Fargo announcing the arrest of a 21-year-old named Joshua Haidt for the suspected murder of 25-year-old Isadora Wengel of West Fargo, who was seen on the 31st of January. They are still looking for her remains, for her body, and that is the plea that has been put out to the public there to help with any tips or information. They showed a tote, too, that may be of interest. He mentioned that this may involve dismemberment, so potentially this tote contains the remains that they're looking for, and a question about whether, if the remains cross state lines, if it's federal charges, which it would be, because as you know, Fargo is right on the border of North Dakota and Minnesota. We're looking at several live events, that news conference, a parade in Seattle for the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General for the United States, still being questioned in a House Judiciary Committee that began meeting some nearly 5 hours ago. We're going to take a break and come back and check in on these events on the other side. Welcome back to All Day Live here on Fox 9. Rob Olson sitting in for Amy Hockert. On the top of your screen, it looks dark, but that's the Super Bowl parade in Seattle. There you go, as the camera's getting repositioned, as we're kind of popping in here on the Seahawks. celebrating their Super Bowl win on Sunday against the Patriots. So we're dipping into live coverage from our affiliate out there in Seattle. So, I mean, it's a live event that they're covering, so bear with them as they reposition their cameras to cover this too. A 2-mile, 2-hour-long parade through downtown Seattle that began at Lumen Field and then loops back there as well. Yeah, there you go. Bear with us here. It's the perils of live TV as we're taking the coverage from Seattle. Yep, there you go. Very exciting, though, for the fans out there as they enjoy sunny weather and temperatures in the 40s for a nice parade that, of course, had this been happening today in Minnesota, would have been similarly pleasant to have a Super Bowl parade here. We would take it in any weather, of course, but this would have been a nice day for it. And there's always the what ifs, right? Had Sam Darnold stayed here and not gone out there. That is frozen up a little bit. On the bottom, we've been monitoring all morning the testimony of Attorney General Pam Bondi in the House Judiciary Committee. Is this an oversight hearing for the Department of Justice, covering a number of topics and getting very contentious and argumentative throughout much of this over the past now nearly 5 hours. We're going to take a few more minutes to listen in on this again.
And this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized. Excuse me, gentleman from Kansas, the Attorney General, former Attorney General, Mr. Schmidt is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and General Bondi, thanks for being here. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we talk?
I do. Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, my friend, for many years. I find it interesting that she didn't even want to try, Congresswoman Crockett, to ask any questions, because she certainly did not condemn her leader, Hakeem Jeffries, for taking money from Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was convicted. And I will be brief to give you your time, Congressman. This is what she didn't want to talk about. Texas, from Cuba, convicted, homicide, arson, weapon offense.
Convicted. So what we talking about? Convict Texas, some of these perpetrators that rape these women that are sitting behind you, that you refuse to even acknowledge they are here.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Kansas.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a few seconds back to make up for the yelling? Thank you. General, did you have anything further to say?
Texas, convicted of homicide.
All right, we just heard them asking for time back to make up for the yelling. I've heard that happen a number of times today as we've been watching this hearing. Because of all the contentiousness and back and forth, they're constantly having to give extra seconds. Thanks for watching All Day Live on this Wednesday.